Let's begin with a memory test. We'll refer to your results throughout this video. You'll be presented with 20 items, one at a time. Try to remember as many as you can. Starting now. Leaf. The test is ended. If you want to write down your remembered items, click on the video and it will pause it. Here is how memory is formed. Stimulus information comes in and is captured by sensory memory. We selectively attend to only part of that information, and it is sent to temporary short-term memory until it is either forgotten or we encode it into long-term storage. Stimuli simply refers to all incoming information in its raw form. All that we see, hear, touch, taste, or smell. Choose your source material wisely, depending on which learning style works best for you. Would you best learn about the brain with a diagram, by listening to a lecture, or handling a brain model? On the memory test, did you remember book, which had a picture, or leaf, which had a sound? Sensory memory captures everything exactly as we experience it, like a camera, and holds it for a very brief period of time so that we can grab it and attend to it. A second video test will prove this. You'll be presented with a group of letters very, very quickly. Stare at the center of the screen and try to remember as many letters as you can. Ready? What letters did you see? Here are the letters. Most get the first three at the top as you would read. The image came and went, but you were able to pull the letters from the lasting image in your memory. Here are some examples of sensory memory to help you understand it. When you blink, you do not see a disruption in your vision because the visual image remains long enough to blend images together. Drawing images with a sparkler shows the lagging sensory image in the air. When your wife is painting and you ask her something, she's not listening and says what? But then she realizes she still can hear the echo of what you said in her mind and answers before you can repeat it. Fast video gamers use sensory memory without realizing it. In the next stage, we selectively attend to just part of the raw sensory image so that we bring it into consciousness and use it. Passive attention grabs our attention with a sudden change and does not require effort, such as when your name is spoken. Did you remember the word sex in the first memory test? This type of attention does not help when you need to concentrate, so you need to choose a distraction-free area and turn off the phone. Active attention demands that we intentionally direct it. You are reading and your head is going back and forth, but at the end you realize your mind was somewhere else and you have no idea what you just read. Here are some suggestions if you have difficulty attending. Question when reading. Learn in groups and compare. Participate. Use a reward system. If you have trouble remembering names when you meet someone, it can simply be that you never attended to it in the first place. Immediately repeat the name. What we attend to becomes conscious in short-term memory. It is called working memory because that's where we think, using new and old information together. Problem is, like a juggler, it can only hold about 7 items, and even that will be forgotten unless we do something to encode it. Did you notice in the first memory test that after a few words, you had to rethink some new strategy since you couldn't juggle any more words? You can increase storage capacity in short-term memory by repetition. Did you remember the word leaf, which is presented twice? Or by grouping items in a meaningful way called chunking. If you remembered the words lifeguard, sand, and ocean, you likely chunked those in a story or a picture. Next, we can use further processing to encode short-term memory so that it lasts longer in long-term memory and is not forgotten. High-interest, personal, or emotional events are automatically encoded into long-term memory without any effort, and you never forget riding a bike or skiing even after many years. However, other information, like school or job work, demands effort and strategies. Flashcards for repetition can work, but a more efficient system is to use deep processing, which makes information more meaningful by forming new associations to things we already know. In the memory test, you likely remembered the new nonsense word NEZ better than XZF because it's more similar to English. And you would have been more likely to remember the word blue if you went beyond color and associated it with a sentence about blue ocean or blue eyes. And make sure to read examples, not just definitions when studying. They make the material more meaningful. Don't memorize, understand. Another excellent way to encode is overlearning. Going over something over and over, even though you already know it, makes the memory last longer and is easier to retrieve. You can also use encoding techniques based on the senses. For example, using bizarre, offbeat visual associations can help you remember somebody's name when you first meet them. Maybe the sound of their name or a feature on their face. Did you remember the unusual animated elephant in the memory test? For studying, it helps to write your own comments or doodles on notes that will stick in your mind when you're trying to mentally retrieve the information. Highlighting important phrases can help with review. A famous memory technique called the method of loci, or place, is based on visual imagery. First, Dan studies 4 parts of his speech in 4 different areas of his home. Then, when the big day of his presentation comes, he imagines being in each room and those parts of the speech pop into his head. Auditory encoding tips include listening to your own recordings summarizing information, or teaching someone else. You really know it when you can teach it. Movement tips include rewriting your notes in your own words or using a hands-on approach if applicable. In sports, the best way to remember movements is to perform them. Finally, we have long-term memory, where all our experiences are stored. People say my brain is full, but there is no known limit to long-term memory. And theoretically, encoded information could last forever, although you may lose the pathways to retrieve it. Memory is stored not randomly, but in a network of associations, organized in a hierarchy system, dependent on how you encoded your memories in the first place. Effective retrieval depends on this. So here are some storing tips for better retrieval. All these involve organization, using clear organization for learning, and pathways to where, when, and why did you learn it. These are great cues for retrieval. If you don't know the acronyms listed here, search the web. Bottom line is, retrieval depends on storage, the way information is stored. The best tip for retrieval is to use all the tips in this video for better storage. One last test and one last memory tip. You'll be presented with 2 lists of words. Try to remember as many of you can from both lists, starting now. The second list of psychology words likely interfered with your memory of the first list of math words, or maybe the opposite if you're a math major. Point is, we don't learn in a vacuum, and information and learning can overlap. To minimize interference, study only one subject at a time. Information is better remembered in many smaller time segments with breaks than in one long cramming all-nighter. Here are some questions for the comments section below. Also visit my website, intopsych.com, for more resources. And be sure to subscribe to this channel.